Hi, my name is Brenda Daly, and this is Real Women Celebrating Women in Independent Film. I am here with Jill Gray Savarese. She is a actor, writer, producer, and she has just finished doing a film called Tango, Shalom. And I'd like to say hello to her. Hey, Jill, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm super excited to talk to you. I noticed that when I looked on your IMDb page, that you had done Seinfeld, and I was like super excited to see that because that was one of my favorite shows. And
Yes,
it must have been super fun to work with those people and
it
be on
was.
that set.
That was a really long time ago when Seinfeld came out. So at the beginning of my acting career, when I had first moved to LA, I was really excited to get connected to that show because at the time it was an important, popular show, but it hadn't turned into what it has become, and there was no way we could have known that Seinfeld would have been as big as it has become over the years. So I
Yeah,
think it's really exciting to be a part of something that has turned out to be that iconic.
I think it's super iconic. And so
Yeah.
when I was at the Producers Guild of America conference produced by, they were talking about how no one thought anybody could ever sell a show about nothing.
Right. I think it's funny that that's become the phrase, the show about nothing. It's been the way that people have viewed Seinfeld, and I don't know what the history is that to be honest with you, but I know that um, somehow that came about, but it's actually a show about something, and that was just something that people picked up on for some reason. And I think because at the time it was the first show that really was focused on the minutia of people's lives, and right, and so it was really just not something that you would consider worthy of a half an hour situation comedy.
Yeah, but I
And
think that I think that's the comedy in it is that they're
yeah,
just normal people, and then of course they're a little higher than normal. But I think people really enjoyed the characters. So it was really a show about the characters,
it
not
was
really their
right.
situation. Maybe a little bit of
Right.
situation, but
Well, it's the everyday things that come up that seem absurd in your normal life, which
uh-huh.
is why I think we can view it as a show about nothing, because our lives are made up of many of those moments, which they're not
Oh
nothing.
yeah.
Because if you remember, some of the episodes turned into something really major. I mean, the one that I was a part of, the Junior Mint episode, was about they were watching a surgery. They were observing a surgery, and he drops his Junior Mint into the incision,
Oh no.
and the patient below. And so that's not nothing. Like if that were to
No.
happen in real life, that would be something.
No, that's
Um,
true. That's true.
but how it comes about, how these things come about, seems to just be uh, what the show is focused on, just these absurd moments.
Right. So I noticed you're going back more into the acting phase. I know you've been doing
Yeah.
some producing and writing,
Yes.
but what are your plans for your acting phase? Have you thought about what your future or what kind of roles you'd like to play?
Well, this is something I've been thinking about recently. Now, when I started out, I was an actor. I've always been an actor at heart and trained as an actor. I actually started performing before I went to acting school. When I was a teen, I was doing amusement parks and I had some professional jobs then. But then I went to acting school at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And so I was always trained as an actor. That was always my goal. And I did that for many years. And then I realized that it was difficult to get roles, like you were putting it in someone else's hands. And I wasn't prepared, and especially for women, because think about how many epic, tentpole features there are where they cast many men in all of those roles, and there might be one woman. Um, think of, Princess Leia, or, some of these other
Yeah, because
action
it's always
films.
like 10 men to one girl.
Yeah, right.
So it's really hard to break through. And the thing is that I think at that time period, they felt like that was who was watching and who was more interested. Plus, it was run by all men for the
I
most
think
part.
that's the key right there. I think
Yeah.
people want to put in film, they want to reflect themselves. And
Yeah.
because most of the Helmers were men, and the people who were financing it, producing it, and everything else were men, and women are used to that and happy to watch those. I watch films, action films. I like watching them, enjoy them, I'm used to them. But it's different. Like if you were to ask someone to watch a film that is female centric and focuses on issues of concern for women or that women think are funny, it will be called, or at least historically in my era of starting out as an actor, it would have been called a chick flick. And like it's designated that these particular themes are only of interest to women, but
Right.
that's not
And
the case.
that's not really true, but true because my husband's an avid television watcher, and
Right.
I think he should be like the person that should pick programs for men and women because
Uh-huh.
he will fight the whole women's show, but he loves Good Girls. Like, and that's one of my favorites. Like, he loves their
Right.
situation
You mean the
and
show?
the
Good
show
Girls?
Good Girls. Have you seen
Yeah.
it? Oh, it's a
I
great show. And then, of course, now we have all these iconic characters that are coming out, like The Handmaid's Tale. And
oh, I
so we're
love
having
that
these
show.
huge shows, and they're very centered around women. And I think for women like us, we will have more roles. Like, there's way more roles for us. It's not all, there's still a lot of movies coming out that it's mostly a male cast, but I think you're right. I think women
Right.
are coming to the forefront.
Right. And so because of that, think about the ratio. So you've got all of these roles for men, but if you have an acting class, look how many more women are auditioning. So it's disproportionately male. So I would like to put this out there, and I've always thought this, that women who get any role at all are extremely successful. And I don't think, if you were to compare them with all actors across the board of every gender, uh, if you get any role at all, you should feel really successful. And I think for me personally, when I was younger, I felt a lot of questionings, like, what have you been in? As if I needed to prove my resume to people to sort of like justify that I was an actor. And I think that it took me a while to realize that because I had gotten some roles, that's success. That's a definition of success. And but I think that's something that's hard, especially for women, because if the odds are stacked against you, just by sheer numbers, let alone all of the other factors that go on in the film industry or that used to go on even more prevalently.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's as far as, but I think you had touched on something earlier that you almost said, but you didn't say, was that you've become a writer and a producer. And I think that
Oh,
is innately because
yeah,
you wanted to create something for yourself
that's
because
exactly why.
and
That
and
was
so and that's where we kind of have that synergy because I actually I'm doing a micro series, it's almost done. It's called Mom Squad, and it is
oh,
a comedy, and it's about what would happen if the wrong women were to try and save the world. So it's kind of
that
like
sounds funny.
and of course I'm a woman of a certain age, so I think I always think my role models are women that are usually younger, because I had identified with that, but really I have to live in the world of reality. And I think acting today is more about living in your moment, and I think you were just maybe 10 years ahead of it.
I think I want to pick up on something you just said. I think it's really important, and that is about age in Hollywood, and not especially for women, but I've also noticed this for men. I've noticed that it's still the last area where we can still sort of disregard people, and it's still acceptable to say, well, and I don't want to get too political, but like in general, there's so many cases where people can just say, well, it's somebody who's older, so that makes it okay. And I don't feel that way. I think that people of all age, should exist and be present, and we need to hear from everybody.
Right.
And especially, again, like something like Hollywood, we need women to stay and be visible. And
Right.
and I don't think that age should be an issue. I don't think we should have to try to be young. Like those stories are more interesting because all women of all ages have some really interesting stories to tell, and there's an audience for it.
And I think too, everybody's always trying to fit into a mold. So, plastic surgeons are making a fortune with that. So we're always trying to
Yeah.
fit into a certain mold. And I think I know Betty White just recently passed away, and I believe
I
that
know. I love
she
her.
literally is a hero for me because my favorite movie was Lake Placid. It was a silly, goofy movie, but she made that whole movie just being who she was and just
I love
playing.
that. I
And I
just,
think she's
yeah.
definitely someone to uh, go, to
To
look at.
emulate. Yeah, I
Actually,
think Betty White is a wonderful example of someone who's had a really long career, but she's also just so energetic and so unapologetically herself. And I think that she's a really good example for that. Now I want to go easy on women though and say that what I don't enjoy is when you were talking about plastic surgery and how women feel, have to do all of these things to sort of have a youthful appearance. I'm not against that. I think that women should feel good about themselves and do whatever they want. But at
Oh,
the
I
same
didn't say I was against it. I just don't think that they should do it to.
no,
I'm sorry, I
no,
dropped my bike. I don't think they should do it just to fit a mold.
no, and I'm agreeing with you. Sorry if I came across wrong, because my ultimate point is that I see people saying there's a contradiction, and this isn't coming from you. Just this is from the public in general. I hear people saying, um, "Don't do plastic surgery," or criticizing women for doing plastic surgery. But at the same time, if women don't do that, they'll be criticized for how they look.
Oh, I
Um,
completely agree
so
with
it's
that.
like, if a woman is going to respond to the pressure that she has to stay, she wants to stay relevant. And if she wants to like use these tools that are available to her, that plenty of people of, men, women, everybody is profiting from, then she should be allowed to do that. But if she does, I don't think that we should be criticized if she doesn't look, perfect still, or natural, or whatever the criticism may be.
I
So,
think people criticize just to criticize. I was just more
yeah.
concerned about their feelings, like if they feel like they have to do that to remain relevant. I don't really. I'm not against plastic surgery. I'm just saying that if I don't think it should make you have to feel relevant. If it makes you feel good, that's whole different,
Yeah.
But anyway, so I wanted to ask you, so what woman in film or television has inspired you?
Well, so there's so many. I mean, if we want to talk about actors and roles that I've watched and films that I've enjoyed, and there's just many, many of them. The one that's at the top of my list, and is the top of a lot of people's list, is Meryl Streep, because I just adore her. And
You kind of look
I,
like her.
what's that?
You kind of have a Meryl Streep
Oh,
look to
well,
you.
that is a big compliment,
Have
and I
you
don't
ever
know
been
if
told
anybody will
that?
agree with that. No,
I
but
swear,
I
that's what you
accept
remind
that.
me of.
Well, I like that. Thank you. Um, I'll accept that, no matter whether people agree if I look like her or not. But I just think and the thing about her is she looks like a lot of different people. So maybe it depends on which role that you're referring to, because
That's true. That's true.
she just sinks and dives into her characters and embodies them. And I don't know how she does it or what she does. I know she's got a great acting education. She went to the Yale Drama School, and she's worked hard at it. But at the same time, I think that she also there's something about her personally that we find interesting to watch.
I think too, she's not cookie cutter looking, and so she looks
Yeah,
like a movie star. I think if you really look at the big movie stars, they don't look like everybody else. They kind of send a step away. I mean, they don't fit into a mold. They
right.
took their own mold and they made it their own. And I think as I've gotten to be an older actor, I've kind of learned that you just be proud to be yourself. I think is the message. Be proud of who you are, because there's nobody like you.
I take that to heart, and I also struggle with that, because I do accept myself, in my daily life with my family, my friends. But when it comes to film, I still feel this pressure, even getting ready for this interview. I feel like, everything needs to look a certain way. And I internalize that over the years. And I think that we all have, it's just what we've been exposed to. And
Yeah, I
it's
think
hard
it's
to
scar
undo it.
tissue. It's almost like scar tissue,
Yeah.
you know? So
It's
let me
hard.
go. Let's move on to producing, because I know you have a couple of projects that you want to talk about.
Sure.
So what is the most recent project that you worked on that you love?
Okay, so there's one that is out now, or we just released it, and it was in movie theaters, called Tango, Shalom. And this is a project that I am a producer on, associate producer, and I was the first producer attached to this film. When you see it, you'll see that there's a lot of producers now, and Joel Zwick is one of the producers, who's known for all of his work. He directed My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and he was just the most prolific TV producer. Director. He directed Full House and Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy. He's got all these credits. And so to be on a producing team with him is just really a highlight for me. And he's a great guy to work with and to know. But this is a project that I believed in years ago when they pitched it to me, and I was the first one they attached to it, and it took a really long time because it was an independent film.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it's really satisfying to see it now. It got a theatrical run. It was in movie theaters all across the US.
That's great.
And yeah, and it was the number one opening weekend, the number one independent film of the summer, in terms of its opening weekend box office.
So where do you find this movie?
Well, now it's available. It changes, it depends on the distributor and who's getting picked up. But I know the last I checked, it was on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to say the wrong platforms, but it was on Google, YouTube, and Vudu, and several others.
Okay, yeah, I just
Um,
want to make sure people will be able to find it because I think
yeah,
I love the concept and I loved My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And I
yeah.
think because I am half Jewish, it kind of
Oh,
makes me feel like that side of me is being heard. I think,
oh, good.
you kind of grow up when you're, half and half. I think my mother was Catholic, my father was Jewish, my mother turned Buddhist. So I call myself religiously ADHD. But I see merit in all. But yeah,
Oh,
I think that really does speak to people who, are of a certain religion because you don't understand culture and it kind of crosses over culture, which I love that.
right. I like that it focused on Hasidic Judaism, and it's a comedy, and it's not just something that's showing them in a bad light. It's showing their humanity and the humor and all of that. And it's a wonderful dance movie, and
Is it
it's a real feel good movie. Really, I
is it a
feel.
romantic is it romantic too or
I mean, in some ways it is, but that's not the main focus of it, because
right?
it's
Uh-huh.
it's like not as much so as My Big Fat Greek Wedding, but it has a lot of similarities.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that one's literally about a wedding, but it's really about the family, and this one is too.
Oh,
And
that's
it's about
exciting.
having a dream and trying to capture that dream.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well,
Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna look for that one. So, and
yeah.
I know you just did a short film called Stanley's Mistake as you were a
Stanley's
producer on
Mistake.
that.
Yeah, I produced that, and we just finished it. And it's a dystopian film about a world where free speech has been outlawed.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
Right. So it's a short film that we're gonna, send to festivals, and we just completed it. So I'm really happy to see that completed, and we can take the next step. I
That's
Yeah, I enjoy working on films with those kind of topics that make you think. I
Yeah,
like
I
thought
think too,
pieces.
you have if you're gonna work on a film because like you said, Tango Shalom took a long time and independent films take a long time because it's mostly about funding and then attaching the right people to it. So uh and being the first one in is great, but you're in that for that long haul. So you have to
So
love what you're doing and you
for
have to
Tango
really,
Shalom.
yeah. So what is your ultimate goal?
So creatively, you mean my ultimate goal,
Creatively,
or
like
personally?
what's in the future? Like how do you see yourself moving forward?
um, well, so like I said, I've always been an actor. I still identify, like, this part of my identity is I'm an actor.
Hmm.
And that's something that I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. And then when I hit that roadblock where it became, I just felt like I wanted more control over getting roles. And then I decided to do more producing.
Hmm.
Once you get into producing, though, you realize if you're a good producer, you need to do what's best for the film. And
Yeah.
so, not in every case can I be even acting. In some of the cases, if somebody wants me to work on a film with them, if it's not right for the film and there's no role for me, then I'm not. I'm just producing it, which I have found that I equally enjoy. I love to produce as well. I
I
like to
don't think
be a
it's just
part of it.
producing because when you're the producer, like you said,
Just
you're the first
producing.
one in and the last one out. I mean,
Yeah, but
you're
just
pretty much like you're there. It's your life for
right.
sure.
It's a lot of
So
work.
yeah. So what is the most important advice you give a filmmaker or an actor?
Okay, so an actor starting out now, I would say that they should get some training. I mean, I know that most people think you could probably skip that step, but I think that there's not just the training that you get, but I think you also get a community. I think you get an understanding of the business. You get time to sort of develop and learn the business, have people you can rely on, have people you can connect with. And because really, in addition to the skill of acting, you have to have the connections. And that's the one thing as a producer that I've realized, and is that knowing people is how you get films made more than anything.
Yeah, it's definitely a relationship game. I think people
Right.
don't understand that. I think there's a lot of people that have a great relationship game, but they don't spend the time training. So then they're not
Right.
ready. You have to do it
Right.
all. And it is a full-fledged business.
Yeah, and
Um,
I would just say always be ready for an opportunity, because that's something that I learned a long time ago. When things I just feel like I want to be prepared for something good to happen, because they do. you don't expect it. And then all of a sudden I had my first short film that I produced under my own production company, my very first one, it was called Catching Up, was accepted at Sundance. And I mean,
That's
we hoped,
exciting.
it was so exciting. Everybody hopes for that. But then when it happened, I don't know if I felt completely prepared.
I
You
don't
want
think you're ever prepared, so you're fine.
but there's a lot you have to do. You get the publicist, you got to get, the film ready
Yes,
to be screened. I mean, there's a lot of things. So anything that you can do to just keep preparing for the success that's about to come is my advice.
that's awesome. Well, it's
Yeah.
been so great talking to you, Jill. I know I would love to have you back.
I love
Just
talking to you too. This
I
was
think
fun. I
every
would keep going and just
I
talk
know
about our
we could go.
stuff.
I know this happens all the time because I know I could sit here and talk to you for like 2 hours and it'd be
I
not a
know.
problem. But
I know.
I'll definitely have you on again because the
Great.
show is just getting its restart. But
Good.
this is Real Women Celebrating Women in Independent Film, and today we are celebrating Jill Gray Savarese. So great,
Oh, thank
Jill.
you
Thank you
so much.
so much.
This has been super fun for me.
Oh, for
Appreciate
me
it.
too.